Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, friends, wherever you happen to find yourself. My name is Carmen Mazzara. As many of you know, I serve as Executive Director of APSIA, the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs. We are the community for graduate schools worldwide that specialize in international affairs, and we're also very proud to be the home of the Public and International Service Advisor Network, to which all of you are such wonderful and active members. Through this series of workshops, we hope to share with you more ways that you can bring public and international service to your students. And we hope to help continue to develop you in your profession as advisors to make your work much richer and make it a little easier, perhaps, for you to bring all of these great possibilities to the students you serve. We are recording this session, so you'll find it afterwards on the APSIA YouTube page. We also hope you'll join us for our last webinar of 2023 in November, looking at the Scoville Fellowship, and we'll make sure you have that link in the chat as soon as we're able to. But these series are really a chance for you to ask your questions, to learn new things, and so we're looking forward to a rich and wonderful conversation here today. If you have any technical issues, please feel free to message me or my wonderful colleague, Brittany Chor, who's the backbone of this whole series for all of you. And I also invite you to pose your questions to our speaker to make sure you get the most out of this session that you can and can bring back some great information for your students. And so with that, I'm very pleased to turn the floor over to Matilda Reckford to share with us the English Heritage Language Speakers Program. Matilda, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Carmen. So my name is Matilda Reckford, and I work with the EHLS program at the Center for Applied Linguistics. And like Carmen said, please feel free to enter any questions in the chat. And maybe we'll have time at the end for live questions as well. So today I'll talk about the English for Heritage Language Speakers program, what it offers and its requirements. And then I'll go into detail about the application process and talk a little bit about some tips to keep in mind as applicants apply to our program. So let me do an overview of the program. So what is EHLS? EHLS is a scholarship program with a focus on professional English communication skills and career skills. The program trains advanced English speakers to be effective communicators and strong candidates for federal jobs. It's hosted at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Every scholar admitted to the program receives a full scholarship funded by the federal government. The program is 8 months in length. The first 6 months are full-time on campus in Georgetown University. And the final 2 months are part-time and conducted online. The participants to the program are native speakers of critical languages who have a strong interest in public service. Our EHLS scholars come from diverse cultural, educational, and professional backgrounds, but they are all united by an interest and a commitment to public service. So a little bit of background. EHLS was established because critical languages are in high demand in the US government. There are other government-sponsored programs designed to teach critical languages to native English speakers, but this is the only program designed to prepare individuals with native knowledge of critical languages for the federal workplace. A brief background on the organization and history of the program. We are a partnership among 4 organizations: the Defense Language National Security Education Office, or DELENCIO, that provides funding; the Center for Applied Linguistics, where I work, and we oversee instruction and we coordinate language testing; Georgetown University, that provides instruction; and the Institute of International Education, that oversees the application process. EHLS started in 2006, and we're just starting with our 2024 program, our 19th program year, and 2025 that we're going to start recruiting for will be our 20th program year. So scholarships for the EHLS program are awarded through the Defense Language National Security Education Office. Each scholarship provides full tuition and fees for the 8-month academic program, in addition to a living stipend, which is $3,600 a month during the first 6 months and $1,200 a month during the last 2 months. For scholars moving from outside the Washington, D.C. metro area, our funder can reimburse relocation costs up to $1,000. Other benefits include health insurance through Georgetown University, a laptop computer on which scholars can complete their assignments and that they can keep after the program, and a certificate from Georgetown University upon successful completion of the program. And that certificate in itself opens many doors, especially in the DC area. Scholars must agree to the following terms: full-time attendance and successful completion of the academic program, agreement not to work during the full-time portion of the academic program, so those are the first 6 months of the program, and the acceptance of a service requirement after completing the academic program. To be eligible, you must be a U.S. citizen at the time of application. You must be a native speaker of one of these 27 languages. This is last year's language list. There is usually some stability in the language list, but we usually release the up-to-date language list around January, so January 2025. You also must have advanced proficiency in English. Your proficiency in English and your critical language are formally tested. You must have a college degree, so that's at least a bachelor's degree or equivalent to a bachelor's degree in the US. You must be able to use the internet, word processing, and PowerPoint. You must be able to commit to a full-time day program from January through June in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University. And you must be willing to work for the federal government for 1 year in a position with national security responsibilities. It is the scholar's responsibility to find that position. So let's talk a little bit about the service requirement. Scholars are required to fulfill a 1-year commitment to work in the federal government, but usually they're interested in people who want to make a career of federal work. So we do emphasize that it is the scholar's responsibility to search for and secure a position within the government. They do get a lot of support from their instructors, but ultimately it is their job search, and we are a university, but not a job placement agency. While scholars prepare for their job search right away, the job search is the focus after completing the intensive portion of the program. And then what does good faith effort mean? It means that you would need to document and keep track of the jobs and positions that you've applied for, and keep a log in the website nsep.net that not only EHLS scholars, but all awardees of an NSEP program have access to. So if you're familiar with the Boren program, they would also have access to the same website. So we have 3 broad tiers of service. They're listed here in descending order of preference. So for tier 1, those are 4 priority areas. EHLS scholars are required to begin their job search within these departments. Any civilian or foreign service position within these departments can count towards a requirement. It doesn't necessarily need to be a language-enabled position. We have scholars work in very diverse fields, including cyber, finance, acquisitions, foreign affairs. So we always encourage our applicants and of course our scholars to think broadly about where they may be able to apply their skills. As far as the State Department is concerned, we're not a stepping stone to the Foreign Service Officer position. The State Department is mainly interested in EHLS scholars for language instructor positions at FSI, the Foreign Service Institute. That's where most of our scholars would land a job at the Department of State. And then in tier 2, if you're unable to find a suitable position in tier 1, you can expand your job search and look at positions in the greater federal government with national security responsibilities. We've had scholars found jobs in other agencies like these ones, The position itself needs to have a national security responsibility, and so it's up to the scholar to make the case to our funder, NCEP, and as I mentioned, also Delencio, they're the same funder. Make the case that that specific position will have national security responsibilities. Our funder has a very broad understanding of national security, so it also includes issues of population and migration, public health, diplomacy, and economic competitiveness. For example, we have a scholar fulfilling their service requirement at the Department of Commerce. And then tier 3 only applies if you've exhausted your searches in tier 1 and tier 2, and you can look at institutions of education. Here's some examples of alumni. So really diverse positions ranging from language instructor to doing some programmatic management or intelligence work. So there is a career skills class on Fridays reserved for HR representatives from different agencies to come and meet our scholars. We call it the Friday series, so it's every Friday. Those are great opportunities for those agencies to present different opportunities that they could apply for. And there's very often an exchange of cards, and they accept resume, and so it's a great place to start networking within the program. Like I said, you also get notifications through the exclusive job website, ncep.net. So you can have access to some help there. And then EHLS scholars have a special hiring advantage called Schedule A. So under Schedule A, an agency can hire you faster without going through all the normal requirements if there's an urgent need for your expertise. That said, positions may still require a security clearance, so it could still take a little bit of time. But basically, we provide a lot of help. Even though it's not our job to find you a job, we provide a lot of help throughout the program, a lot of opportunities. A little more about the academic program. So we work on the 4 language skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And we also work on professional skills, resume writing, dressing for success, delivering a elevator speech, interviewing skills, navigating different hierarchical workplace relationships, the federal search process are the focus of the program. On top of the guest speakers, we also have the analysis project, or OSAP, which is our capstone project. I'll talk a little bit more about it later, but it's also a great opportunity to prepare yourself to write a federal style brief and also deliver a brief to high-level government officials. And like I said, weekly guests, recruiters from different agencies and contractors come to speak to our scholars. Here's some more about the curriculum. So in the news analysis class, they may be assigned articles to read, and they're taught to learn how to do critical analysis of the news. So a scholar might report on a news piece from their area of the world to the entire class on any given day. There's a reading and writing class where you learn how to write reports and do research, drawing on sound analytic conclusions. There's a professional oral communication class where you're making presentations on a daily basis. And so by the time there's the capstone OSAP presentation, our scholars are very prepared and they've had a lot of practice, and they usually do really well. We also make scholars comfortable sending emails in English, and we teach them the proper format and protocol that is expected of them. There's a negotiation component, and we also teach how to run an effective meeting. Throughout the program, or by the time they reach halfway, scholars also have a beautifully perfected resume that they can submit to future employers, mock interviews, and agency representative may also come to do these practice interviews with our scholars, give them feedback. And yes, so those are our four courses. Professional oral communication, news analysis, career development classes, and reading and writing. But we have found that after 6 months, our scholars still need help in the writing and career skills development. So these two courses continue online for the last 2 months of the program. While you are in the 6 months intensive portion of the program, you cannot work, and you sign an agreement not to work. It would actually be impossible to hold a job or even a part-time job and successfully complete the program. During the part-time 2 months program, you can work and you can get a job since that's all online. So, like I said, we have the OSAP, which is the Open Source Analysis Project. So a scholar is paired with a mentor from a federal agency who's provided them with a topic specifically for them to research. It usually relates heavily with their native language and area of the world. And our scholars work with the mentor in producing an amount of research or report based on that topic. The mentor from that agency is really interested in what the scholar can bring in terms of native language capacity and cultural knowledge, because they can have access to some open source resources that may not have been translated. And so they can do that research in their native language. They can do it in other languages that they know. We've had past scholars from the Maghreb. They've done research in Arabic, French, and Tamashek, because those were the languages of the sources that they were looking at. And many scholars get job offers just from that very special relationship that they've had with the person mentoring them. And even from their presentation, they'll present at the end of the year in front of an audience of people from the intelligence community. And so people might just be very interested in the audience and might want to interview or share a card just after those presentations. Some outcomes of the program. So scholars said that they feel that their confidence has improved, confidence in English. Many say that it's kind of a metamorphosis to experience this program. We test English before entering the program, at midpoint, and at the end of the program. Also, by the time you finish the program, you have a beautiful professional portfolio, you have a polished resume, writing samples, you have your US government scale English test score and your heritage language test score, and you have your certificate from Georgetown University. EHLS is a non-degree program, non-credit certificate program. Okay. So I will begin kind of the official recruitment for 2025 in February. In January, we're going to get the final language lists and kind of ramp up our recruitment there. And the recruitment is until July 5th, which is when applications are due. As soon as someone has submitted their application, that they'll be invited after just a quick review of their application to take their English oral proficiency interview, which is another requirement, by July 19th, to have their application move forward. From that pool of applicant, we invite up to 50 candidates to some additional testing in September and October. And then we announced the final decision in November. And the program in 2025 would start in January through June, the full-time intensive portion. And then the part-time would be July and August 2025. So like I said, every candidate completes stage 1, which is the online application, supporting documents, and a oral proficiency interview. And only up to 50 will be invited to stage 2, which is skills testing. So we've already tested the speaking, the English speaking, but then in step 2, stage 2, we also test reading, writing, listening in English, and then we test their critical language. And we have a technology skills test as well. So the online application includes some supporting documents as well that are due by July 5th. Transcripts, so yeah, I think I do go over them in the next slide. Let's see. So the online application is not yet, but will be available in February on our website. There's a few sections, but you're uploading some supporting documents, your resume, a transcript. Foreign degrees must be evaluated, so applicants must contact an accredited evaluation service and then upload it to the application system. Those evaluations are usually take quite a bit of time, and so that's why we have such an early start date for getting started on your application, because we know it can really take a while to get your transcripts evaluated. You can select at least one, but we recommend 2 professional references. So someone that can write a recommendation letter for you. So you just enter their contact information in the application system, and then we reach out for their recommendation. We recommend recommendations from current supervisors, former supervisors, professors, and we recommend to keep it kind of professional and not to choose like family members or personal friends. And after that's all submitted, and we're sure we have the right amount of recommendations and any other attachments, we reach out with instructions on scheduling your English oral proficiency interview. So you get an email from that. The oral proficiency interview is a 30 to 45-minute conversation. It's administered by Language Testing International. So we have some deadlines on when to complete that. We also say that those interviews cannot be rescheduled and that they must meet a minimum standard of 2 on the ILR scale, the Interagency Language Roundtable scale. There's a great website that kind of explains what a level 2 means in speaking on the ILR scale. So we recommend applicants to look at a description of what that level is to kind of give them an idea on if they think maybe they're there or if they can prepare in any way to reach an ILR level 2. So we select up to 50 provisionally selected candidates to skills testing. So that's the other English testing, the critical language testing, the technology skills testing. And then we offer the admission in November, and we anticipate selecting 18 scholars. So that's a very competitive program because every year we get around 200 applications. So 200 applications to 50 on stage 2, and then 18 scholars that go into the program. Some more tips that we like to indicate is to make sure your resume and the employment section of your application are consistent, and explain any gaps, making sure the reviewer will understand your education and work history, making sure to gather all the documents as soon as possible, especially with situations where you might have to reach out to a foreign institution to get your transcript. And we do list on our website some evaluation services that they can access. And then asking for references early. I recommend, sending an email or contacting your reference and explaining them about the program as well, making sure they know about the program and they can write a good reference for you. And then since there is that oral proficiency interview to complete, that's also a good reason to submit sooner rather than later, because then you want to have plenty of time to get ready for the English testing. The essays, there's a few essays in the application, so we always say to be very detailed and clearly demonstrate your work, your interest in working in the federal government, maybe doing some research ahead of writing your essay, looking at different opportunities that you're interested in and trying to be very specific about it. And then we have many resources on our website. So I think the best tip is to just attend all our webinars and just look through every tab, everything on our website, because we list out the selection criteria. So you'll also know the criteria that the reviewers are using when they're reviewing your essays. So those are very helpful as well. This is a section on our website where you can find the selection criteria. But like I said, there's just many sections on our website that are just worth reading through to just be as prepared. The more you know, the more successful your application will be. And then for technology skills, we recommend going also on our website. We have a self-assessment that people can just take. It's just a checklist that they can read through to kind of prepare also for that portion of the testing. Right here. And then, for you listening to me today and anyone I recommend following us on our social media. That's when we announce things like in-person events, and the sooner one that we're going to be posting is our official language list. So you might want to know about that, and we do have a newsletter on our website to stay informed. For people who are also interested in kind of like an outreach, to other people, we have flyers that we're happy to also mail, physical flyers, but we have digital ones. We have past webinar recordings that you can share from our YouTube channel. So these include webinars that we really recommend applicants to attend or to watch a recording for, because this is kind of a general information webinar that would be covered in our general information webinar, but we have one specifically on the service requirement, one specifically on a successful application, and then we have live Q&A sessions where we invite special guests, including instructors, including alumni. And I think knowing a lot of things that alumni or instructors may say, that will also help having a successful application. So it's worth attending those and sharing the past videos we have for those. And yeah, recorded and then frequently asked questions. So those are all the different things we have on our website. And here's some contact information. So any questions specifically on Georgetown University and the curriculum would be my colleague Maria. Anything on language testing would be me. Anything on the online application would be my colleague Anna. But we would just be very good at rerouting to the right person and make sure we get your questions answered. So that's it. That's it for me.
Thank you, Matilda. What a wonderful program, and thanks to everybody for all the questions that you've sent either directly to me or posted publicly in the chat. We will be able to share this recording afterwards as well. So if there's anything you need to revisit, it will definitely be there. Matilda, the first question that I got was about how you decide what level constitutes heritage level speaking. And I know for some students, maybe they spoke it at home, but they don't write it very clearly, or they speak it at home, but it's quite informal and dialectic. How can you talk a little bit more about the determination of what constitutes a sufficient enough level of that native language?
Yeah, so we can only test speaking to go into the program. That's just in terms of our capacity, testers' capacity in the US to we wouldn't be able to test reading, writing, speaking of every language that we accept for. And so it wouldn't be the same test, it wouldn't be fair, it wouldn't be reliable. So we only test speaking and we require an ILR level 3. So I think it's worth checking on the website what that means. It's definitely definitely a high level of speaking. I think when our program recruits, we do look for people with a high native like level of their language. Maybe not in every mode, right? Not necessarily, but I think what the people eventually hiring our scholars looking for is also some deep cultural knowledge, because that's just what makes you a strong scholar in terms of the research you'll be able to produce during the program, and then most likely also what you'll be able to contribute to your future role. So that could be different levels of heritage, of nativeness or heritage, or how long you've spoken or been exposed to the language. But I'd say apply and try and see if you get a 3 in the speaking. And we do think that this program is going to bring you a lot, in many cases, even if some of our scholars might have a higher level in English. We do still think that there is some professional skills and federal specific English skills that you're learning in this program. So yeah, that would be my response to that.
Thank you. Another question would be about the citizenship piece. Obviously, scholars have to be US citizens. Can they apply if they are in the citizenship process? Do they have to have been for a certain period of time? How about immediate family? Can you talk about how that component works? And I know it's different for other scholarship programs, so I'm curious about EHLS specifically.
Yeah, for us, it's at the time of application. So if you're in the process, I would recommend, making everything so that you can apply and hit submit, and really, really hope that by July 5th, 2024, you get it. But yeah, you would have to be a citizen at the time of application.
And no matter what your family is, as long as you are
Yes.
USDF. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And can you talk about then the related piece, which is the clearance piece? And for a number of students, having family in different parts of the world, having family who've come from different parts of the world can complicate the clearance process. Is this something that scholars have facilitation with? Is there advice that you have for scholars who may have family in different places that are obviously of critical national security importance?
No, it's a great question. We typically don't have, the process is so different from clearance process to clearance process, from agency to agency. And that process only starts once you apply for the job, which is after you've completed the program. So it's really not part of the program, or I couldn't in my recruitment stage, but also in the kind of scholar stage, provide some very, very specific advice on that. But yeah, typically that clearance will last a certain amount of time after they've completed the program for our scholars. And so they there'll be, a very good network of alumni there to kind of help you out after the program and getting these kind of transition jobs as you're waiting for your clearance. And I'd say through that network and some general support, but I wouldn't say that our instructors are necessarily experts also. It's just really every agency could be very different. Yeah, that will depend, but I'd say there is some support in some way, but it wouldn't be a very clear answer of like, yeah, for sure you're gonna get a clearance if you do this.
Would that anything was that easy. And for our advisors too, I put a downloadable page that we have about helping our students prep for the clearance in advance as well, if that's of use for students who compete for this or any other program.
Oh,
I see one more in the chat, and then I absolutely invite our colleagues to raise your hands and tap more in the chat or whatever we can do to help make sure you get the information you need. Which the other question that we have for you right now, Matilda, is some programs are able to share on a school-by-school breakdown how many applicants come from their institution. Is that something that you can share? This is our colleague from the University of Washington, curious how many UW students you might see in a year.
Oh, I don't know if we're able to, I don't know if we would have access or we're able to share that. So do you want to know how many applicants, where they come from, or agencies and whether they come from our program?
If I'm understanding the question, she's curious how many come from her institution into your program.
Into our program. That's a good question. Yeah, we might be able to share that. I'm not exactly sure. But maybe in broad numbers we would be able to. Yeah.
Great. Friends, what else can we answer? I see in particular our colleague, Amy Tain, who's one of our co-chairs of the Public and International Service Advisor Network. So Amy, not to put you on the spot, but are there any questions that you think your students might have that we should pose to Matilda before we turn her loose?
I think my biggest question is for our graduate students. A lot of them are Boise State's a research institution, so a lot of our students are very research based. Other than obviously general marketing that we do, is there a really good way for us to get the word out to these specific students, like ways that might make it attractive for them to participate in these kinds of programs?
Yeah, I think one part of the question that I'm hearing is also like, oh, what if our scholars have like this, or our graduates have this specific background, would they find? So I think one thing that we say in recruitment that kind of makes it attractive to like as wide as possible audience, I guess, within our kind of restrictive eligibility, is that, you know, the beauty of the federal government is that there's kind of everything out there. So any background you have, you know, you'll be able to apply those skills to a job. And so I think, yeah, anything that might be really convincing. Like I said, it's really just hearing from our alumni, and we know it's just kind of a transformative program that has, you know, really improved their careers and their lives. It's a very, very cool opportunity. You know, some benefits that are pretty cool in terms of being at Georgetown, and the laptop and the tuition.
I did notice that you have a breakdown of sectors for like the different areas in the government that students will be applying to or are required to serve in. Do you have examples, and obviously, you know, students would have to look for that on their own, but do you have some examples of positions, like what could they expect to be eligible for when looking for jobs during the program?
I'm trying to think if I could access.
And if you showed that already, I apologize. I did have to step out for a couple of minutes.
It's like, do I know my own website? So these are some websites that we recommend looking. We also have somewhere on the website a list of actual positions. There was a slide where I listed a few examples. But let me see. Examples. There we go. So here you have, I don't know if I can zoom in any way. You have the agency, and then you also have the position.
Okay.
Or I don't know if you have the position actually, but you have the sub-agency within Department of Defense. So very wide places that people have very big diversity. I'm always so impressed when I attend the open source analysis project. We have these mentors from different agencies paired, and so they're the ones, they provide a topic, and so they have kind of a close partnership with our scholars and with our program. The names of those agencies that have they're just like they're not even acronyms that they spell, they're just like very long, types of agencies and very niche little bureaus that have so it's just, I think that's kind of also the very exciting part of this program, is how much we help in discovering all these places that people can end up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. No, that's exactly what I was looking for, is sort of a little bit more of a detailed breakdown there. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Is it helpful if I put this in the chat maybe, or?
That would be actually, yes, that would be very helpful.
This one.
Thank you.
Matilda, we have one other question as well, and that's about numbers. Do you have a guess as to how many will apply next year? And you mentioned that you get it down to 50 and then you get it down to the teens, but do you have a general sense of application numbers?
200, I would say. Yeah, that's the goal, and what we've kind of achieved more or less every year.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then for the languages, I know that they're not out yet, but is it typically something that corresponds to the news cycle? Is it typically something that corresponds to an administration's priorities? If our advisors had to start counseling their students now, are there particular places they should be on the lookout for?
The language list is developed with partners from our funder, who kind of reach out to different agencies and ask them what their need is, or what they anticipate their need to be in terms of language. Trying to think if I had something else to say about the language. Yeah, I think something that's kind of nice too is that we don't have a quota for language. So we can have, of our 18 scholars, we can have 5 Russian speakers and 6 Uzbek. It's the good application that makes you, as long as your language is language that we're recruiting. So yeah, I think that's kind of nice, or at least maybe reassuring, that you're not weighted in any certain way because of what your language is.
So the intake may change. So some years you may have no Vietnamese speakers and 6 Korean speakers, or I see it. So, okay.
Yeah, and we only have 18 spots for 27 languages right now, and so we don't have one per language, 1 spot per language. We wish we did, but yeah, we only have 18.
And it's 18 kind of no matter what.
Yep, no matter what language. Yeah.
Then I guess my last question, and I do invite our colleagues again, if you have things, please put them in the chat, would be how students can best stand out. You talked about their interest in EHLS, their interest in public service, but are there things that really help a candidate, because it's language semi-agnostic, really rise to the top and be one of those 18?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think successful essays that you've really thought about, that you've kind of like drafted and let sit for a little bit, come back to, really polished and really thought about, yeah, how they showcase, you know, different skills, different abilities, different motivations, different things that you would want to be doing after the program. Really good references. I think that's also something that an applicant can put a lot of effort into, because they can, you know, reach out to someone, but really make sure that the person writing their reference will know about the program and will really kind of recommend them in the right way, kind of explain why they're good for the program. Yeah, I think yeah, the supporting documents, the essays, yeah, that'll make a good application. And then I think also working on your English and critical skills to have some good scores on those, because we do so much testing, and the testing comes into play. It's not weighted as there is kind of like how well you did in your application. That's kind of like that's going to be the decision of whether you make it into the program or not. But between people, I guess we do weigh if you've had a higher score in English writing, or if you've had a not necessarily a higher score in your critical language, but in English we would weigh that higher. So and there's a lot of resources for practicing your English skills for the different tests on the language testing website, on the ILR website. So getting ready for those tests, because yeah, you want to have a really good application, but then you want to get that level 2. Not every applicant, unfortunately, gets to that level 2, and then they can't make it into the program, and it was just because of testing and not their application.
Great advice. And I think a testament to the critical role that our advisors play too in guiding students and figuring out who to be those recommendations, and really how to craft that narrative in their essays. So thanks to all of our advisors as well for the good work you do directing students in this direction.
Absolutely.
Any final questions or thoughts folks want to share? Matilda, any last minute advice?
Yeah, I see a question about, so if students graduate in May 2025, they can apply by July 2025, I guess. Yeah, they have to have, I mean, I'm assuming if they're graduating from undergraduate degrees, and if they don't have any other undergraduate degrees at that point. Then I saw a question on non-competitive eligibility. I'm not sure. Was that you, Carmen?
It was, but
Yeah.
then you shared about Schedule A. But
okay, awesome. Yeah, that does help.
Well, great.
Cool.
Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful program with all of us. Advisors, thank you for being here for another wonderful PISA webinar. I invite you and remind you to come back on November 15th to learn more about the Scoville Fellowship, which offers opportunities not in the federal government, but with other nonprofits and think tanks within the DC space. And we hope to see many of your students who are competitive for EHLS getting into these wonderful careers protecting national security. So thanks to all of you. Have a great rest of your day and take care, everyone. We can stop recording.